Nobody gets you ready for Utah football more than the KSL Sports Zone.
Ready.
The regular season comes to an end for Kyle Whittingham and the Utes as they hit the road for a battle against Kansas. Your home for the best coverage of Utah football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You're locked on to JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, coming up at the 4 o'clock hour. We're anticipating a conversation with Logan Cooley, who had the very first 4-goal effort in franchise history for the Utah Mammoth last night in a 5-1 win, a freaking huge 5-1 win.
Badly needed.
Man, the energy, right, on that ice last night.
Yeah, it was
different.
That's the team that we saw earlier in the year.
It hit a little bit different, and it was nice to see them have that effort, and that was the thing people were wondering about, and they got it last night in a 4-goal effort from Logan Cooley, who's going to join us in the 4 o'clock hour, so stay tuned for that. Hey, it's Jazz Ticket Tuesday. You know what that means? We've got tickets to give away for you for the Utah Jazz facing off against the Sacramento Kings on Friday, November 28th. That's this Friday at Delta Center. Give us a call right now. Caller number 12 gets that pair of tickets. We're going to do we're doing a pair every hour, right? Yeah, man. Ticket Tuesday is no joke. Jazz Ticket Tuesday is no joke. So 801-575-ZONE. That's 801-575-9663. 801-575-ZONE. Caller number 12 gets a pair of those tickets to see the Jazz and the Kings at Delta Center this Friday. You're going to be off of work. What else are you going to be doing? Let's check out the Jazz, man. Go see how freaking good Keontae George has been.
Yeah, they're
another
fun
awesome
to watch
night.
right now.
Another awesome night for Keontae, by the way.
Yeah.
You talk about consistency. This guy's building a career.
How about Ace Bailey last night as
I
well?
know. It's
For
awesome.
I-21.
And they lost.
The best of both
I mean,
worlds.
I'm not cheering that on. I just.
Yeah, you are.
All right. Joining us on the program right now, it's Matt Tait, covering Kansas athletics for R1S1Sports.com. Matt, thanks for being on the program, man. How are things in Lawrence?
Yeah, everything's great, man. A little fun fact for you guys. I actually had 4 goals in a single game last night myself.
Oh, is this the beer league, the Monday night beer league? Is that what's going on?
Well, it was against my 11 and 3-year-old daughter, but it's 2-on-1 so
okay.
I'll take it.
Hey.
I mean, I felt like you needed to know that.
Pure domination on your part.
First time in family history too. You've had the hat tricks, but you've never been able to pull off the 4 goals. I thought that was impressive.
You nailed it.
Another thing is you
never
ever let your kids off the hook, man. Never let up easy on them.
No,
How else are they going to learn?
Well, I tried to pretend one time when I let my son beat me at golf, and now I can't beat him at all. And so it's like, and once you give that up, like they don't respect you after that.
No, you got to keep that respect.
Yeah, when I was a senior in high school and I thought I was tough, my dad put me into the ground. Like I tried to wrestle him. I'm like, Dad, let's wrestle.
That was a bad choice.
I'm going to show my ex-Marine dad that he's old and
You never heard of dad strength.
Dad strength is different. And you know what? I understand it now because it's like he was fighting for, I will never let you feel what it's like. You're going to have an elbow in the back of your head. It's going to be into the living room carpet. And I remember him laughing, and I will never forget that moment. And I'm going to do that to my kids. So there you go.
There you go.
Matt, this Kansas team has been head-scratching for us for the last few years because every time since 23, since BYU joined the league, we started going to the Big 12 media days and having conversations with Lance Leipold. I'm like, these guys are going to turn the corner. Jalen Daniels, this is his year. Jalen Daniels, this is his year. And it's another year where, we're looking at Kansas and going, what could have been? What's the vibe in Lawrence right now with this team in 2025?
Yeah, well, you just spelled it out pretty perfectly. The fan base is certainly right there with what you're thinking. I mean, they won 9 games a few years ago and made it to their second consecutive bowl game, won the bowl game, and had most of that team coming back. So for the 24 season, and I think everybody thought, understandably so, but also that's an indication of how limited the success has been for KU football, because just because you win 9 doesn't mean you win 10 the next year and then 11 after that. I mean, it does not work that way, and KU fans haven't been through that very often in the history of this program. So, people were very excited about it, understandably so, and then they started 1-5 last year, finished really strong. As you guys know, they were in Provo last year and beat a really good BYU team, and that was part of a historic streak for KU, the first non-ranked team to beat 3 ranked teams in a row in college football history. So they were good, and they just didn't start well. And this year it's been a little bit of that. They started much better. They were 4-2. They played at Missouri. Gave Mizzou a game. It was tough. They played tough and had a chance to win that one. And you're starting to think, okay, this team's got something. They're headed in a good direction again. And then here late season, they just haven't been able to score and haven't been able to figure out a way to stop teams from scoring. And that turns 4-2 into 5-6 in a hurry. And now they're facing the absolute task that no one wanted to face, which is playing a really, really good Utah team that's got a lot to play for still in a gotta-have-it game. And to be completely honest with you, that gotta-have-it game is going to be the day after Thanksgiving on a cold day here in Kansas with, probably a half-full stadium because people are so disappointed the way the last month or so has gone. So it doesn't change the big picture of it all, and I have the luxury of looking at the big picture. Fans don't like to look at the big picture. They don't like when I do it. But Lance Leipold has absolutely turned this thing around and has this program competitive and in the mix to be what they want to be every year. Now they need to get to the next step, and who knows when that'll happen, and who knows if Leipold and his staff are even the group that will make that happen. It's there's a handful of questions floating around about that kind of thing. Where do we go from here? So it's tough times, but it's also the perspective that they try to have and that I try to remind people, and Lance tries to remind people too, is this is what you asked for. During that decade when you couldn't win more than 2 games, all the fans ever said was, we just want to be competitive. We just want to be a 6-win team and go to a couple bowl games. Well, that's what they are. And now, of course, that's not enough. So we'll see where it goes from here. But obviously Friday is a really, really big game and a really, really tough game. I mean, I haven't talked to anybody who thinks Kansas has a shot in that game.
What's missing? You mentioned, obviously, their offense isn't scoring enough points. The defense is giving up too much. But, Devin Neal graduated. I'm sure that didn't help them. They haven't replaced him with a 1,000-yard back. But what are some of the reasons why Kansas has fallen short of expectations?
I think it's the simplest thing, and that's what probably has people most frustrated. It's just execution. It's not that these guys aren't coached up. It's not that they're not drilled well. It's not that they don't have talent. It's just that when they get out there, they can't get out of their own way, and that's really on both ends. I mean, I mentioned that Missouri game. They had a possession to go win the game, basically late, 4 minutes left, and on a third down pass. Emmanuel Henderson, who has been their best receiver and has had a good year, came over from Alabama. Ball right on his hands, he dropped it. On defense, they've had guys missing gaps, missing assignments, running into each other, not knowing where to be. I mean, that happens when you're, turning teams over as much as we see in college football and college athletics as a whole now, but you don't expect it to happen into October or November, right? And so the execution piece of it is really, really a big problem. And, while Lance and really all of his coaches say all the right things about how that starts with the coaching, and that's very true, at the same time, sometimes these guys are in position to make the plays and they just don't make them. So how do you fix that? I don't know, right? I mean, is it better talent? Maybe. But what do you have to do to have better talent? These days you have to have more money. And so it's just not automatic. Wouldn't surprise me if in the offseason some coaching changes or shuffling goes down, obviously not with Lance, but maybe with some of his staff. That's always an option to try to get things fixed. But who knows? Because they're going to lose a lot off of this team, and the biggest, of course, being Jalen Daniels, like you mentioned.
when you kind of see some of the things that they've, I mean, obviously there's a lot of talent there, and we saw last week Kansas State go in and put it to Utah, in a moment where people were like, no, that wasn't supposed to happen. Is there a vibe that can happen like that this week with Kansas and Utah? Obviously, hosting it at home is a big deal, but how does Kansas do something like that against Utah? Can their run game do something similar? Could Jalen Daniels get hot in the passing game? What is it that's the effort that the Jayhawks are going to try to make against this Utah defensive front that's pretty tough? And then on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, I certainly think the players believe that's possible. They took a really tough loss to Iowa State. They looked completely unprepared last weekend. They no-showed for the first half. They were down 17-0 before you could blink. I mean, there were a lot of bad things that happened up there and that really weighed on them. And the good news for them is on the bus ride home, they were watching that K-State Utah game and they could flip the page right away because they knew they had a short week and they knew that was their next opponent and, didn't make it feel any better, but at least you could get back to work, right? So they've done that, and they've been this whole program under Leipold has been really resilient in doing that. Game after game, year after year. I mean, no matter how emotional or how bad the week before was, they've really been able to kind of flush it and get back to it. And that's obviously a credit to the players for doing it, but that's a part of their culture and coaching too. So I know that they believe they can show up. And one of the things that certainly had their attention is the way K-State ran the ball against Utah. KU's got a good running game. They've got two really good veteran backs in Daniel Highshaw and Le'Shawn Williams, and they've both had good years when they've been healthy. And they're both healthy right now. And so there's no doubt about it that they're going to try to find whatever K-State found, even if it's just part of that, and try to replicate it. Easier said than done, of course, but KU does have Daniels, who has, the ability to hurt teams with his legs, and then those two good backs as well. So, I suppose if they found that, and especially if they executed early and kind of build some momentum with a little early success and an early lead, it could make it a little bit more of a game and a little bit tougher on Utah than most people are thinking. But, that the fact that Utah had to scratch like they did last week to win that game, obviously I'm sure that got the coach's attention, and then the coaches after that got the players' attention about how, look, you almost blew it. You almost cost us everything. and it's a long shot, right, that they play in the Big 12 title game, but they still have a chance. And they'll kick off knowing they have a chance. And so I'd assume they're going to show up with a very, very keen focus on let's go take care of our business and then let everything fall from there. But, it's going to be one of those games that's emotional for Kansas because 33 seniors and some of them that have been around a long time. So if you're looking for a case to be made for Kansas to be in it or to win it, that's probably it, right? Just finding a way to will themselves to, hey, we don't want to lose on senior day for these seniors that have been such a big part of turning this thing around. That doesn't score touchdowns. That doesn't fit gaps. That doesn't execute assignments. It can matter, but it's hard for that to matter for 4 quarters, again, especially against such a talented and physical football team like Utah.
Yeah, Utah's probably not giving up 470 yards rushing this week.
I wouldn't think
Kansas.
so.
I can't imagine that happening back-to-back weeks, or some heads might roll up on the hill here in Salt Lake City. Before we catch you loose, I wanted to get your thoughts on the college football playoff rankings. The new rankings are coming out here in about an hour. Is the Big 12 getting enough love from the committee? Does the conference deserve 2 teams in?
I think it does. I really do. Whether it's professionally and kind of following it like I have to do to a degree. I mean, Kansas, made a debut in the CFP standings a couple years ago, and that was pretty cool around here. Obviously, they haven't been in it the last couple years, so not as much a huge part of my job, but to cover the Big 12 is and things like that. So, there's a lot of talk professionally and even just with me and my friends around here, like the SEC love is kind of crazy, right? I mean, I get it that it's such a top-heavy, talented league, but the bottom of that league is hot garbage. And,
right.
And those teams not only beat up on, those teams at the top not only beat up on those teams a lot, but then as everyone knows, there's that weird week where they play the non-con game late this season and get basically a bye in a lot of ways. And I just don't think you have that in the Big 12. Not even a little bit. I think that this conference, even last year, Arizona State's the best example of it, picked so low in the preseason standings or rankings or polls or whatever it was. And then they go out and have that kind of year. And you look at the schedules, you look at common opponents, you look at how teams fare against one another, and so-and-so played so-and-so tough, and then that happened again the next day or the next week anyway. I mean, it's just no nights off, and that's the way it is in the basketball version of this conference and obviously in football. So I have no problem if they're not, two teams in the top five or whatever, but I do have a problem if they don't get serious consideration to get two teams in, because this is a really good league. The top 8 or 10 even football programs in this conference can almost play with anybody, and that makes it really fun. But it also can be a problem for them when they're trying to have a little bit separate at the top so they get that love. So Commissioner Brett Yormark does a great job of advocating for the league. He's out in Vegas right now at the Players Era tournament, and there's a few Big 12 teams out there, and he was on the TNT halftime show the other day during the KU game, and he was doing it there, even during a basketball broadcast. So I don't think that this conference is willing to just lay down and take it. I think they're going to keep fighting until they get what they deserve, and that's in July at Big 12 Media Days, and that's during the season, and that's during basketball games, and pretty much year round. So obviously they need the teams to deliver, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out the next couple of weeks. But I think there's at least two teams that are deserving, if not more. So it'll be really interesting, not only to see how that shakes out, but also to see how this thing ends up in the Big 12 race and who ends up playing in Arlington.
Matt Tait, he covers Kansas athletics for R1S1Sports.com. Find his byline there. Matt, thanks for hanging out with us this week, and we look forward to this one between the Utes and the Jayhawks this Friday.
Sounds great, guys. Yeah, thanks for having me. Call anytime, and if I get 5 goals, I'll call you.
Yeah, listen, we'll be waiting. Absolutely.
Yeah, I expect a hat trick out of you soon.
That 3-year-old's a tough defender.
Yep.
It happens. All right, take a break. We'll come back. We'll have a quick Would You Rather. Then we'll get to the top of the hour where we're anticipating a conversation with Logan Cooley. 4-goal performance last night in the 5-1 win for the Utah Mammoth over the Las Vegas Golden Knights. All right, we'll take a break. More to go. 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.